In this video, I'm gonna finish up my review of this 27-inch Hoyt Exceed and extra long Velos combo for a total of a 75-inch bow. I'm shooting it as a Barebow. I'm gonna tune it here in this video, get it set up for 18 meters and then shoot around for score. I've got a camera downrange so you'll be able to see the impact points the whole time. I'll be giving my commentary, thoughts, and feedback on how this bow actually feels, and maybe some benefits and drawbacks at the end as to what I think and feel about it compared to like a 70-inch standard recurve setup for Barebow. So yeah, I'm gonna start here, get my crawl at 18 meters, and then go through the tuning process really quick and shoot a score and see how it does. Because I haven't shot this bow yet, I haven't shot this length. You know, I'm 5'10" and this thing is several inches taller than I am. So it's very unique as far as what it looks like and feels like potentially. So I'm excited, I can't wait to get some shots in and let you know what I feel. Really quick, I forgot to add that my wife has been working on training planners. We had them available midway through last year, and now they're available for 2022. I will have links in the description below, my website, Kaminski.com, where you can pick those up. We have an undated version, so you can start it at any time and pick it up and stop as you need, or as you potentially forget to use it, you can just pick it back up and reuse it. And we also will have a dated 2022 version coming out very, very shortly. So if you're interested in the dated version instead of the undated version, just hold on a little bit and it will be available very, very soon. And thank you to everybody who has supported this channel through purchasing books and things like that in the past. I've warmed up, that's it, but I haven't scored or shot or sighted in, nothing. I haven't shot this bow once. I've drawn it back, but that's it. So I have no idea where my crawl is going to be, so we'll find out here together and see how it goes. Not too bad. First impressions are, it sounds like a Barebow. That's for sure. It is a lot more loud than what I've been shooting. Hopefully with a little bit of setup and adjustment here, I can make it quiet down a bit. I'm just under a 10-inch brace height, which is, I'm right about 25 centimeters right now. So it's really high, but these are extra long limbs. So maybe with a little bit of playing, I can get it to calm down after I tune it as well. I've got my tiller set almost at a 1/4 inch negative tiller. I reduced it from my normal standard, which is a 1/4 inch negative, because the bow is longer, so in theory I should need less negative because the limbs are going to be more even because they're longer at full draw. There. Got the crawl dialed in. Shoot a few more arrows to warm up, and then shoot a bare shaft. I can definitely tell that it has a lot of extra length to it because it's really pushing rather hard into the brim of my hat. And normally I can have it in this position easily and not touch it with the 70-inch bow that I have been shooting. So it definitely has a thing to it that it may fit people better that have like relatively short noses and I guess flat faces, maybe very proud chins. This may work a lot better and fit you better. I don't know yet what I think about the feel against the nose yet. It's just too early to tell. And normally I shoot 30 meters with my bare shafts to tune them, but for the first shot I'm definitely going to do it here at 18 because I have no idea if it's even remotely close. The arrows are flying a little funny, so I suspect that the tune is definitely off. I'm gonna start here at 18. I'm gonna keep my 18 meter crawl, then I'm gonna walk back to 30 meters and probably get a better tune, unless it's like just dialed in here at 18 meters really easily, because I find that 18 is just way too close to give that arrow a little bit of extra time to find its plane to start heading stiff or weak. And sometimes the knocking point can still be not quite dialed in unless you're back at 30. So I don't know if that's a standard thing, but for me, that's absolutely the best way that I can imagine. If you're gonna shoot a standard distance like this, get your crawl down, go back to 30 meters, use the same crawl, aim off to still hit on the bail, and tune for that. I think that is the best way to go for a single set distance here, like this 18 meter round, if you were gonna be shooting it for indoors. Yes, I'm shooting these X10s right now, but I mean, on a recurve, you can shoot extremely high scores with X10s indoors. The Koreans do it all the time, so why shouldn't I be able to shoot decent indoor scores with it here at 18 with a Barebow? And I mean, it's grouping already pretty good, so I don't think the arrows mean a whole lot. I think the X10s just flat out shoot super, super well, so, you know, I'm gonna just do it here at 18. So yeah, it's a little on the weak side and a little bit of a high knocking point, so I'll adjust some things to dial that in. But overall, I mean, the actual feel of the bow, it feels really stable while at full draw. Actually, it's very, very much so stable. It feels really, really good at full draw. The reaction after the shot, because there's no vibration dampening on this bow, it's just harsh and loud, as you can tell. I mean, it sounds like a Barebow, a pretty standardized Barebow with the given kit, because this is what basically a lot of people run with quickly. There was a lot of comments, or not a lot, but some discussion about how this may not actually fit through the Barebow ring. Apparently, if you loosen up all the bolts, including this weight bolt to the plates and the plates to the riser, and you push it back as far as it can go, and then tighten everything back down, it'll fit through the Barebow ring. Why would a company design something that wouldn't fit through the Barebow ring when they design it for Barebow? It just wouldn't make sense. But due to the tolerances and a little bit of play in there, they're pushing the limit here to fit through that ring. You got to push it in to make sure it clears on this 27-inch Exceed. It's definitely pretty easy on my fingers. I mean, I've got my tiller set pretty close to where I like it anyway, about that 1/4 inch negative. It helps me hold really well. You know, I don't fight it up or down. That's where the primary use, what I use to set the tiller, is to make sure I hold really well and I'm not fighting to keep it up or keep it down in the center. It just ends up feeling much better that way. But overall, I don't feel the finger pinch yet. Yes, this is only 7 arrows I've shot so far, so I need a little bit more time to make a more final determination. But overall, it's definitely enjoyable to shoot so far. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm gonna back down the bow weight a bit. I'm gonna go probably a 1.5 turns or so on each bolt here, and see if that brings it in a lot closer. Lower the knocking point some as well before I go back to 30. I may not even go back to 30 because it's Barebow, just having fun here at 18. Honestly, you want to know something that is my favorite part of the entire Hoyt kit is this Allen wrench that comes with it. The longer extension leg on this just makes adjusting the bow weight so much easier. You can't scratch the riser because it doesn't even touch it as it's in the back. And it just gives you a nice handle to use. And honestly, it's one of my favorite things in the Hoyt kits these days. But I'm gonna do a full 1.5 turns off on both limb bolts. I'm gonna check my tiller, make sure I didn't mess it up too badly. Just over an 1/8 inch split. I'm gonna leave it there. And because I backed the limb bolts out a little bit, I bet you the brace height has grown. Yeah, now we're up at 9 7/8, which is like 25.25 centimeters roughly. So quite a big brace height, but I guess that's what these limbs call for. The knocking point was definitely a little high. These are the movable knocking points that I tied on in the previous video. If you haven't seen that, that was unboxing and discussing any sort of flaws and potential initial thoughts on this bow. I'll put links in the description below and a card at the top up there if you want to check it out. I have basically the same crawl that I did with my win that I was shooting as a Barebow, so that hasn't changed much at all. Sun is right in my eyes. It is right there, and because I have to have my hat up slightly higher, it is blinding me while at full draw. So I guess the first thing that I potentially don't like about it, other than the sound. Still weak, still high knocking point. I'm gonna go get him, make another adjustment, and hope it dials it in closer. So because the turn and a half didn't make a whole big difference, and I know I'm very close to the maximum amount that I can turn out on these limb bolts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out the limb bolts locks as far as I can, turn the limb bolts in all the way, not counting the turns because it's unimportant. Once it bottoms out, I can now go a maximum of 6 turns out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is the safest maximum amount of turns out on a Hoyt bow, to my knowledge. I think it might have been 6.5. I can't remember exactly, but I'm gonna do 6 just to be safe, and I would recommend no more than 6 on your end as well. Put the locks back tight. Do the same on the bottom here. And then I'm going to restring the bow. Actually, I'm gonna take some twists out because backing your limb bolts out will preload the string less, so it won't be as stretched. So I wanna lower that brace height back down a little, I think. Because, you know, it's a little stiff anyway, so lower brace height will be better. It's a lot easier to string. Way less tension on the string down here. It's gonna feel really odd. After that, because both limb bolts are out the exact same amount, and I know I still want a tiller split, I'm only at a 1/16 of an inch, so because I'm out all the way, the only way to make the bottom bigger than the top is to go in on the top. So this will be basically what I'm doing here is making this bow as light as possible, but still having my tiller that I want. If I were to back the bottom out, I would be more than the 6 turns out, so that would be no good. All right, I'm at 8 1/8, 8 1/4. So there's an 1/8 inch split. I could probably go more. All right, so this is something I've not noticed on a Hoyt before. I've not really paid attention to it, to be totally honest. So it's just something I'm noticing. As I was going to adjust the limb bolts with the limb strung, I would see this happening as I was tightening it or loosening it. I've not noticed that before. I don't know if the tolerances inside the riser itself are a little less than normal, or the amount of preload on these limbs, because it's so easy to string because the limb bolts are backed out all the way, puts very little pressure in here at brace height, so it doesn't keep that limb bolt locked in place. I've never shot extra long limbs before and not had them all the way out either, so like I said, I think that's the real cause. Really loud. There, I have the stop adjusted right on the sniper now, so it won't be so rattle trappy. I never had an issue with the other bow I was shooting with that noise. Okay, now we're talking. We're getting in there now. So I'm gonna go get them so I can get a closer look at it and see. It looks like it's maybe this much stiff, so I can probably come back up maybe a half a turn-ish, but I have to, looks like I maybe back down my plunger tension to get that group to move into the center again, so that in theory should weaken the arrow a little bit. So I think I'm just gonna shoot one more in like this and see if it stays relatively close. If it does, this is more than capable of shooting a really high score. I'll be the one that's holding this bow back, not the tune. So I'm gonna get a closer look and find out. Yeah, those 3 arrows, those 2 flet shafts and that bear shaft, minus that high one because I adjusted my crawl after that one, all 3 of them were within the size of a quarter. So I mean, that's plenty tuned, good enough. I am now going to shoot a couple ends, maybe just one here to get this thing dialed in so I'm hitting where I want to, and got my crawl down and my plunger tension down, so that way I can start scoring here at 18 meters and get right into this. Right now the bow does feel pretty good. It's easy to work with. You know, it seems like even though my tiller has changed slightly and I'm adjusting things and adjusting the bow weight, it still feels quite good and aims quite good. So I think this overall length does in a way make things a bit more consistent from setup to setup and makes slight adjustments less apparent to the user. It still is affecting the tune of the bow and the way the arrows perform, but I'm not feeling nearly as much of a change, which in my opinion is a really good thing, because when you need to make adjustments, you won't be thrown off by it so much. All right, so that one, new grip, still using a grip sear. I can feel the grain of the wood, and so my fingernails going on each little grain, and so that wasn't quite the grip sear going. So challenges, little things. Man, between the sun, not being able to see, the wind blowing, drying my eyes out, it's tough. But I mean, I'm pretty happy with the impacts as it is, so I'm sighted in. I'm ready to start scoring. I'm gonna shoot a 30 arrow round here now. So far, like I said, I think that it feels really comfortable. I really wish it sounded better, but it's a 8125 string on Hoyt limbs and Barebow, so it just sounds like this. You know, there's not too much you can really do about it. It is Barebow. Some dampeners, now that the new rules are allowing it, would definitely quiet it down a lot, but with this weight system, there's no way to put the dampers on. Not yet. I'm sure Hoyt will work on something, but I'm ready to go. Next end will be for score here at 18 meters. I will shoot 3 arrow ends for a total of 10 ends, 30 arrows, score out of 300, and score standard world archery. This target face is, I think, an Aeromat target face is the company, and it's basically a mouse pad, which is amazing because the target holds up really, really well. This is the target that my wife's been shooting on for a while, not lately, last year, and I shot one too, and it still is holding up really, really well. I grabbed this one because it's round, it's square top to bottom. Mine was a little stretched vertically for some reason. They're not perfectly one-to-one scale. They're so close. They're within a millimeter or two, you know, across the whole target. But they're definitely not World Archery certified because they vary slightly, but they stand up so well to the abuse, you can leave them outside, and I really like them. So my score may not be perfect, but I am outside. There's terrible lighting conditions. You know, good for you guys to see, bad for me to see. And it's just gonna be tough. But, you know, it's 18 meters, 20 yards, having fun, shooting Barebow. just reducing my plunger tension to bring that arrow in the center. I'm still hitting slightly left. Normally I shoot with two eyes open, but because of the sun, I gotta close my left eye because it's so blinding. I don't have a scope or binoculars, so I'll have to tell you what I scored after every end, but I mean, it feels great. The bow is stable and it's really easy to shoot. It feels like it's a lot lighter than I normally shoot, which would make sense because the bow is so much longer. It has so much more mass behind it, so it's going to make the arrow weaker relatively, so you can shoot a lot less bow weight. For me, it doesn't make a big difference because I have such a low anchor, you know, down here, not way up here, and my crawls are fine. I could easily get to 50 meters with this bow because my crawl is less than a half of a Yoast mark higher than my Win and Win setup with 46 pounds. This feels like it's 44 or 43 pounds. It's really, really light, or at least it's very, you know, easy to shoot in that way. So I do like that so far. So it looks like I shot maybe a 20, anywhere from a 28 to a 26. So I'm gonna go down and get them, and I'll tell you the score after each end. So that was a 27, 10.98 for end number 1. Ugh. It's so hard to see. I wish the clouds would cover the sun. That last one, it just, I wasn't quite as stable as the other two. So we'll see what happens. I need to keep working on making sure I'm driving with that tension and direction until the arrow is well after hitting the target, and just make sure I finish the shot nice and strong. So that first end was a 25. I mean, a second end was a 25 rather. And I'm still hitting slightly to the left, so I'm gonna back down this plunger tension just a touch more. And hopefully it'll bring it right in. I'm telling you, it's taking a lot of willpower to stay looking where I want the arrow to go and not move, because the sun is brutal. And I've been relying on my hat to block the sun so I can see, and I just can't with this super long bow. So there is definitely a trade-off there. Well, that one was a 29. That was better. Filed my fingernail too, so I feel less of the grains of the wood, so that's nice. Wish I could see. That was a 25 on that one. Try to do better. Looks like a 27 from here. Definitely have a tendency to throw them a little left when I make a mistake. That has 100, that is all me. That is not the bow, not its fault. It's definitely me. I haven't shot very much. I haven't shot barebow very much, that's for sure. I haven't shot anything very much. But it's still, again, it works with me. The tiller is not exactly where I like it, but it still holds just fine. It's so easy to work with, and I think that is a benefit of this super long setup. It's a little easier to shoot. If it was indoors and the lighting was better and I wasn't dealing with this, the sun, I wouldn't complain so much. I don't think I would shoot it in fields because it's really critical to be able to control the amount of light that enters your eyes. And this super long bow, I have to have that hat up super high. And field archery, they make it hard on purpose, so they'll use the sun to try to challenge you a lot. So I don't know if I'd use it for field archery, this setup, but I mean, it feels really good otherwise. Looks like a 28 or 27 from here. The last end was a 26. One more end to go. Maybe, I don't even know. It could be anywhere from a 24 to a 27. I can't tell from here. That was a 25 on that end. So we've got one end left for score here. Plucked that one. I deserve that 8. Well, at least I finished with some sort of a shot that makes it feel like I know what I'm doing. It's a challenge, you know. Barebow is not for the unprepared. Yeah, you know, it's fun. It is fun enough that anybody at any time, doesn't matter how much dedication or effort you put into it, you can get out there and have some fun with it. But in order to be proficient and be happy with the performance, at least for me, I needed way more time behind the bow on barebow compared to recurve to shoot a halfway okay score. I mean, I haven't spent enough time on the barebow anyway to even fall back on something that's second nature and second habit. So, you know, it's a challenge. So I definitely did not do this bow justice in this video as far as a score, because easily could have shot 10 points more. I'll go down there, bring you with me, and we'll finish up scoring, and then I'll give my thoughts on this bow, the positives and the negatives, so that way maybe you can have a better idea as to if you would like to try one of these super extra long 75-inch gigantic setups, and if it may be right for you. So let's go get them. So I ended up scoring a 263 out of 600. Easily could have shot 10 points higher, easily. There was a lot of very simple mistakes that I was making, and I was struggling with the sear on this wood grip, the sun and the wind, things like that. Not good enough excuses, and there should be no excuse. I've been really busy. I haven't had any time to shoot at all. And I haven't even had time to make very many videos. I've been actually working with Heather to get our new property ready so we can get there. We decided not to stay here and build. We're gonna go somewhere else, and you'll see it eventually. And over the last several weeks, we've been getting the electric put in, digging the trench to get the conduit in the ground, and then also we pulled our own well to do it ourselves. That was really fun, by the way. And, you know, just overall haven't had much time at all. That is no excuse, and, you know, I owe you better. And also, I would like to apologize for the delay in content. It's been very slow this month because I've been so busy trying to do other things in hopes that it would be done already so I could have more dedicated time and more dedicated space. But it's been a challenge, so apologize for the delay in content. But let's get back to this 27-inch Exceed in the extra long Velos combo and let you know how I feel about it. Now, this group, this end, is pretty indicative of how the day went. When it went really well, it just dropped right in the middle without even a blink. I made a lot of mistakes to the left. A lot of those had to do with the grip sear and not finishing with the tension and direction. Sometimes I had some collapsing plucks, and sometimes I had some mistakes because I'm just not comfortable shooting barebow. I haven't done it enough. And, you know, changing all this stuff, new grip, new bow, new length, new everything. I'm not on top of my game at all in regards to any shooting at all. So it's just very apparent. It shows in the scores, and I expect no less. However, it still doesn't change the fact that I can share with you my thoughts and feelings on the bow, how it feels, some pros and cons of everything, and you just give you some overall feedback. So the overall package of this bow is really good. There's very little issues to the overall package. You know, the fit and finish is relatively good. There are some things that could be desired, and I'll go over those in a moment. But the overall look of it, it looks nice. It's appealing. It looks like it flows well. It doesn't have oddball weights and stuff that just don't look right. You know, everything looks like it has a place, and everything fits together just beautifully. All the anodizing is done great. The colors are all the same, like the color of the steel weight, the color of this aluminum plate, the color of the aluminum limb bolts, the clicker plate assembly and all that. They are all the same texture, the same color, so everything just aesthetically is very pleasing to the eye. As far as negatives in the finish and stuff, I think that their matte finish limbs could be better. I showed you these issues in the clear coat through here. I do not know if you can see it. Yeah, right in there. I'm not happy with that. You know, and I think a lot of people that would spend the retail value on these limbs would expect it to be better. That could have been improper prep, or who knows what's going on. But you know, the thick, heavy clear, the gloss clear, fills all that in and smooths it all over because it's so thick. The matte stuff I'm a fan of because it's so thin, so I think it won't change your alignment over time. And the limb itself, I think, will end up lasting longer. The looks will last a lot longer, and it won't tend to degrade, I guess, for the lack of a better term. The performance of the bow. It feels super stable at full draw. It is the easiest barebow to hold while at full draw that I've used so far, although it feels like it's the lightest amount of draw weight. Again, the tune reflected that I needed to go way down in draw weight. These are 46-pound limbs, but they're extra longs on a long riser, so they tend to be a little lighter than that. And I have them backed out all the way on an ILF setup, so I'm gonna be really not working the limbs very much, which makes the draw curve very smooth and very pleasing. It ends up just feeling really good. It's super stable at full draw. The changes in tiller don't affect the hold all that much. It just feels better set up, kind of straight out of the box, than any other bow I've shot for barebow, because it just kind of works. It works really well because of the extra length. So you're not really even loading the limbs up at all, so it doesn't show you an imbalance all that much. It's quite interesting. The tiller, though, you can adjust enough to make it work and make it hold better for you. The brace height is extremely massive. I didn't hit my arm at all, which I'm pleased about because it's way up here. You know, normally my brace height's way down there. You know, I didn't encounter problems. I was suspecting that I may encounter some problems, but I ended up not having an issue. The reaction after the shot really left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. I just think with the extremely low preload at brace height, because I have the limbs out so far, you know, in conjunction with the extremely high brace height, it just is very, it's soft, it's not snappy, it sounds and feels like a Barebow does, you know, Barebow meaning like when Barebow really started first being a thing in field archery. I mean, it always has been, and there's always been a small cult following there, right? But it's grown a lot now. Before I would really only encounter Barebows at field archery tournaments, and I couldn't stand shooting next to them because they just were like, they sounded like this, really loud, really explosive and chaotic. And this is what it sounds like. It just isn't very refined as the way it feels and sounds on delivery of the arrow and the vibration after the shot. At least not in comparison to the bow I have been shooting as a Barebow. It just feels so much better than this as far as the after reaction shot part. Although it's not as sensitive, with the exception of me making mistakes to the left. But, you know, like I said, I think that's me. I don't think it's the bow. And the bow definitely would not, it wouldn't take that away. It would still be there. You know, so who would I recommend this bow to? People with very long draw lengths, people with extreme crawls potentially, people that change different distances pretty often, people that may have a stronger, stouter jaw and a less protruding nose, people that are looking for a setup that's just going to work right out of the box and not need lots and lots of playing with it to make it feel good at full draw. Now, I wouldn't recommend it to you if you're already if you're trying to anchor and have the string touching the tip of your nose and it's already pushing pretty hard with a 70-inch bow. This 75 is going to make it really worse. It's going to push extra hard against your nose. I noticed I had to pick my head up a little bit to compensate for it. Some people that I know really crank their head back and say they don't like that. I didn't like it because I had to have my hat high. So if you're a person that likes to just keep their hat on normal and leave it there and never move it, this bow's not for you for sure, because I had to, this was too low and it would still touch and I couldn't block the sun and I was struggling to see. Also, if you're shooting in a range in your basement maybe and you have a low ceiling height or something like that, or in your garage, you're gonna whack this limb on the top of the ceiling. I've done it already, just pulling it back inside once, because I already do it with my 70-inch bow when I let down, but this one I do it when I lift the bow because it's so long. Now that this shooting is over with, I'm gonna pull the limb out of the bow and see what kind of wear we've got, and it definitely is pushing pretty hard into the base of the limb there. There is some serious markings going on right there. Very little on the tip of the limb belly there, even though I had the limb bolts all the way out. You know, safe as far as how far you go out, but they're definitely digging in there. So long term, I'd be questioning that. I'd like to see the tolerances a little tighter in the limb bolt area, but overall, super sharp bow. I mean, the look of it. This is, in my opinion, this is the best looking Barebow on the market. The kit, the cutouts, the, you know, OEM weight assembly, it just looks better than any other bow on the market as far as Barebow is concerned. So I definitely applaud Hoyt for that, and you know, I think Doug does an excellent job. Again, very, very, very little to be desired here. It's really, really good. I like it a lot. I'm not sure if I'm convinced I like the 75-inch setup. I don't know if I would shoot longs and even shoot this as a 72. I don't know. I'd have to play with it a little bit more to let you guys know. My favorite recurve setup was a 27-inch riser and medium limbs to shoot a 70-inch bow. I just like that extra casting and snap of the medium limbs over the long limbs on a 25-inch riser. It doesn't jump as hard out of the hand like the 25 and 27 does, but it's super snappy. I don't know if I'd like that on Barebow because medium limbs are even smaller than the long limbs, so the string walking, you're gonna be loading up the limbs a lot. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but as far as this bow, it is the best looking Barebow, and right out of the box, the best feeling Barebow while at full draw. I just wish it wasn't as lame, isn't the right term, but the reaction after the shot is just, it's not like I'm shooting a bow that looks like this. It doesn't feel on delivery that what this looks like. This looks like a finely tuned, refined machine that is aggressive and snappy. It just looks the part, but it doesn't feel the part. Given I'm barely working these limbs, if I were to shoot long limbs at a 20-inch draw length, it'd probably feel pretty similar to this. So it's probably, you know, something that's just not gonna happen with this type of setup, but it just doesn't feel like it matches the looks. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please do subscribe and hit the notification bell so that way you're notified when I upload new content. I would appreciate it very much. If you're interested in learning how I tune and set up my bow, just like I do, and learn how to do it, I'll have links in the description below for Tuning for Performance. It's a book I wrote on how to set up and tune your Olympic style recurve bow. Many of the things in there apply to Barebow here, and eventually I will make a Barebow tuning manual as well. I just need to do more and spend more time doing Barebow shooting to be able to give you more of that info. There is also a tuning series that is available. I'll have links in the description below for that too, and it takes you through how I tune and set up my Olympic style recurve bows. Thank you big time to Hoyt and specifically Doug Denton at Hoyt for sending me out these products so I can get my hands on them, play with them and test them, and give you, the consumer, more feedback outside of what you see currently on the internet.